tonight. Welcome to my channel and welcome to my top 10 joyful movie-going experiences in 2018. Now before I get to the list of movies, let me explain how this is going to work. First of all, this is not a best of list. This is a most joyful list. These are all movies that I liked or was impressed by or really surprised me in a good way. These are not saying that these are the best films or which movie is necessarily better than the other. Another thing you have to remember is that I watch movies in theaters differently than I would watch them at home. It takes significant time, money, and effort for me to see a movie in theaters. So that's why this list is going to be focused on movies that I actually saw in theaters. So if you're wondering why I didn't mention a certain movie, either I just plain didn't see it, or I have seen it but not in theaters first. And finally, any movie that had a theatrical release is eligible. So films that had a limited release, or a lot of anime films or small productions have just a day or two in the theaters before they sit onto home markets, those are all eligible. If I saw them in the movie theaters first, then they're eligible. Only thing I can't be eligible is if I watched a classic, let's say Casablanca, or if there was some type of simulcast of like an opera or a play or something like that. No, it has to be actual movie. It has to be a new movie, and I have to actually see it in theaters first. So, with that in mind, sit back, relax, and enjoy my list of the top 10 joyful movies of 2018. Number 10, I Feel Pretty. I wouldn't be surprised if this movie appears on a lot of worst of lists made by other moviegoers and critics, but I enjoyed the movie very much. That is probably because I am among its target audience. Similar to the character portrayed by Amy Schumer, I have had a lifelong dealing with self-confidence, physical health, and body issues. The movie wasn't made to appeal to general audiences. The movie was made to appeal to folks like me. I'll admit that the premise of the movie requires greater suspension of disbelief than the average superhero film. If you can get over that hurdle, then you'll probably discover an enjoyable experience. And even if you don't, I certainly did. This movie catered to my insecurities, and I gobbled up every morsel. Number 9, Mission Impossible: Fallout. This movie is very high on other critics' lists. I'll agree that the movie is probably the best pure action film of 2018. I've ranked it low on my list because I'm incredibly tired of the Mission Impossible formula. I am also frustrated that the movies have become less about espionage and counterintelligence and more about the Tom Cruise I'm not too old for this yet super stunt show. What I liked most about Mission Impossible Fallout was the fact that it was the first true sequel of the franchise. A returning villain, a returning leader of the IMF, a returning love interest, and unlike the recent James Bond and Jason Bourne movies, Fallout actually made the series feel like it was leading to an ultimate conclusion. I'm sure Tom Cruise will make at least one more film in the series, even if it literally kills him. But for now, he and the people behind the films have truly done the impossible: make more and more sequels that actually improve over time. Number 8, Spider-Man: Into the Spider-Verse. Many moviegoers and critics were surprised by how excellent the film was. I wasn't surprised at all. If anything, I would have been surprised if the film had been terrible. I've witnessed so many versions of Spider-Man across my lifetime that I've actually seen versions of a Spider-Verse before the term Spider-Verse existed. There was even a recent season of a Spider-Man cartoon that was totally dedicated to exploring the Spider-Verse. Unless the people behind Sony were completely incompetent, making yet another Spideyverse presentation is practically cut and paste at this point. My only real concern was the highly stylized animation for the movie. The trailers made the footage seem erratic and confusing. Thankfully, the animation for the actual movie was much more comprehensible than the trailers implied. In terms of the story, It was great that the filmmakers decided to craft an origin story that highlights how unoriginal the story actually was. I've often said that I don't mind watching a 90-minute commercial if it's a good 90-minute commercial. Make no mistake about it, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse was crafted by Sony for mass marketing as well as focus group testing. Still, I was pleased to have bought my ticket. If Sony keeps releasing great movies like these, then I shall happily continue to purchase more tickets. Number 7, Ready Player One. A movie that had the Back to the Future DeLorean, King Kong, the Iron Giant, Batgirl, and Prince and Michael Jackson cosplay was going to be on my joyful list. Even if I had to cook the books and make a top 100 list and the film was at the very bottom, the movie was going to be on the list. I'm very pleased to report that the movie deserves to be among the top 10 by its own merit. Once I pulled back the pop culture nostalgia, there was still a very entertaining film to be found. All science fiction and fantasy movies require suspension of disbelief, and Ready Player One requires a whole lot of it. I only have one major question about how the fantasy universe worked, and the movie never answered that question. If it had, then the movie would have been higher up on the list. But despite not getting an important answer, I still enjoyed the movie itself. Plus, it's the kind of movie that practically demands rewatching. I suspect that I'll see this movie again and again for several years for what remains of my life, and I'll continue to enjoy it and discover more and more details with each reviewing. Number 6, Won't You Be My Neighbor? There is an old saying about never meeting one's heroes because they will always disappoint you. When I first heard about a Fred Rogers documentary, I had only one thought. Please not him. There are so few truly honest and upright public figures left. Please don't let Mr. Rogers be another wolf in sheep's clothing. I am very relieved that Mr. Rogers, the kind-hearted man that influenced generations of young people, was the real deal. I am not suggesting that the man was perfect. The documentary doesn't suggest the man was perfect either. The movie wasn't about spectacle or making headlines. It wasn't about uncovering some mysterious truth. It wasn't about a political cause or a stylized charity. Instead, the movie was very much like the man. It was about respect, love, appreciation, growth, and discovery. The movie was a reminder that there are good people that want to do good things for the world simply because it's the good thing to do. Heroes exist, and some of them will never disappoint you. Number 5, Superfly. I've consumed a lot of media throughout my life. At this point, it's not often that a movie pleasantly surprises me. I can be shocked, amazed, swindled, and baffled. However, it becomes harder and harder for me to be surprised. It's like spilling your drink on 2 important documents. You're surprised when it happened. You aren't surprised that it happened. I didn't have many expectations about Superfly. Based on the trailers, I thought the movie was going to be another paint-by-numbers, cookie-cutter ghetto gangster film. Instead, the movie was like a medieval fantasy recreation in the modern urban setting, similar to Leonardo DiCaprio's versions of Romeo and Juliet, but without all the fancy Shakespearean language. The plot was complicated but never confusing. The villains were one-dimensional but still captivating. Best of all, the main character, Youngblood Priest, built his criminal empire through wisdom and patience more than violence and intimidation. As a movie, Superfly is not among the best films of the year. As a movie-going experience, it was among my best of the year. I was surprised when it happened. I was very surprised that it happened. Number 4, Teen Titans Go! To the movies. To say that the Teen Titans Go cartoon is an acquired taste would be an understatement. I don't think the fan base is large enough to actually justify a feature film. The cartoon is tolerated by the comic book community instead of actually enjoyed. It was a series that no one asked for and that no one wanted, but it's here, so we might as well get whatever enjoyment we can from it. Over the years, I've come to appreciate the series as a whole. Therefore, I am probably one of the few adults that attended the movie because of genuine interest instead of needing to keep a child quiet for an hour and a half. The movie uses the similar formula of the Lego Batman movie and the Peanuts movie and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. It makes fun of pop culture and its own brand for as much as possible. While the other movies that I mentioned did a tremendously better job at that formula, Teen Titans Go to the Movies gave me the single biggest belly laugh that I had all year. I laughed so hard and for so long that I had to cover my mouth in order to not disturb the rest of the audience. That is the reason why the movie is so high on my list. Somehow, some way, Teen Titans Go to the Movies made me laugh like no other cinema experience in 2018. It was nowhere near close to being the best movie of the year. However, it gave me the best laugh of the year. Number 3, A Quiet Place. If you ever need proof that a lot can be achieved with very little, then this is your movie. If you need an effective example of keep it simple, stupid, then this is your movie. If you want affirmation that crazy stunts, wall-to-wall special effects, a soundtrack performed by a battalion of pop stars, or an A-list cast are not necessary to make one of the best films of the year, then this is your movie. I've often said that A Quiet Place was like a Twilight Zone episode stretched into a feature-length film. It had a minimal story, with a minimal cast, with minimal dialogue, and with minimal character arcs. While those qualities would be the downfall of most productions, A Quiet Place turned them all into strengths. The movie created suspense and tension like nothing I've witnessed in a long time. I love this movie. I enjoyed it so much that I almost consider linking the number 1 and number 2 films on this list together in order to give A Quiet Place a higher spot. As far as I'm concerned, A Quiet Place is nearly perfect. How a movie brought so much amazement with so few tools continues to astound me. Number 2, Black Panther. Honorable mention, Aquaman. If you know me, then you knew this movie was going to be somewhere on this list. If you don't know me, then welcome to my channel. I hope you're having a great time. Either way, I'm just going to talk about the 3 biggest elephants in the room. First elephant. Were Black Panther and Aquaman practically the same movie, except with the motivations of the heroes and villains reversed? Yes. Do I hold that against either film? No. Second elephant. Was Black Panther basically the superhero version of The Lion King? Yes. Do I hold that against the film? No. Third elephant. What do I think of Killmonger? Not only do I think he was one of the best comic book villains of all time, but I also think that he was one of the best villains in cinematic history. It is said that the best villains are the ones that you agree with their philosophy, but disagree with their methods. Killmonger was a villain that you nearly agree with both philosophy and methods. Unlike most villains that are bad guys because the movies need bad guys, Killmonger had a justifiable grievance against Wakanda on both a political and personal level. Best of all, he genuinely bested T'Challa during the challenge fight. No outside interference, no kidnapping or threatening of loved ones, no poisonings, no special advantage or disadvantage to either combatant. Killmonger came, saw, and conquered. For a very brief time, the bad guy won, and a few of us in the audience were actually rooting for him, myself included. Number 1, Avengers: Infinity War. I mentioned earlier that many movie surprises are like small accidents. Surprise when it happened, not surprised that it happened. Avengers Infinity War surprised me when it happened. It surprised me that it happened. And despite seeing it over 6 months ago, I am still feeling the aftershocks of the surprise. I have read all 3 sagas of the Infinity Gauntlet comic books, and I was still surprised. I knew that the movie was supposed to be a part 1 film, and I was still surprised. I knew that some characters already had sequels in the works, and I was still surprised. I had pre-purchased my tickets on the Thursday and Saturday of its opening weekend. I wanted Thursday to see it as soon as possible so I wouldn't risk being spoiled. I would see the movie again on Saturday with my brother. I was so surprised by the movie on Thursday that I nearly purchased a Friday ticket just to stabilize my mind. I didn't buy a Friday ticket. However, after I saw the movie on Saturday with my brother, I still saw the movie for a 3rd time the following weekend. That viewing was in IMAX. I don't even like IMAX. The format was the theater's first showing, and I didn't want to wait for the standard format. I could go on and on and on about the movie. However, the simple fact that I paid more money to see a movie that I had already seen twice, pretty much guaranteed, its #1 position. Avengers Infinity War wasn't just my most joyful theater experience in 2018. It was my most joyful experience times 3. My #1 choice moved me so much that when I got home on that Thursday night, I just made a video of me just getting my non-spoiler thoughts down, just getting my head together, and I published it as a first impressions video. And afterwards, I started doing other first impression videos, and now those first impression videos are called mini reviews. And that another is the reason why the movie wound up being at the top, because it's made an entire different filming category for my channel. So yeah, that movie was definitely the best theater-going experience I had all year round in 2018, and I wouldn't be surprised if it just winds up being one of my top favorite movie-going experiences for my entire lifetime. I don't see how that's going to be topped anytime soon, if ever. But for now, I hope you enjoyed my list, and I hope you'll share whatever comments you like in the comment section, and I hope you'll like, share, and subscribe, or dislike, share, and subscribe. Once again, I'm High Heel Knight. Thank you for watching, and remember, find inspiration everywhere.